So while we're waiting to get started, go ahead and type where you are located in the chat box for us. And the chat box is down at the bottom of your screen. Looks like a little message icon. So, hi Linda from Huron. I'm actually in Rapid City. Jane Strommen, who's presenting with me, is located in Fargo. Deborah from Sioux Falls. Belinda from Waldorf, Maryland. Very cool. Mankato, Minnesota. Welcome. Thanks, Jim from Yankton. It will be retired or recorded. I was reading your retired next to your name. It will be recorded, and everyone that's registered will get a link to the recording once it's available. Sue from Vancouver, welcome. We're glad to have you. Matt is our tech support. He is located in Brookings. So we have arrived at 11 Mountain, noon Central. Welcome, and thank you for your interest in why aging with purpose matters. My name's Leacey Brown. I'm a gerontologist with South Dakota State University Extension. With me today, I have Jane Strommen, who is a gerontology specialist with NDSU Extension. I would like to go over a few housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar is being recorded. All attendees will be emailed a link to the recording once it's available. Please type any questions you have in the chat box at any time, and Jane and I will answer them at the end. Please keep yourself muted throughout the webinar. And finally, you will receive a link to a survey later in the week, early next week, to provide feedback about your experience during this webinar. Please complete our survey. In that survey, you will also be able to recommend other topics you'd like to see Jane and I cover in this webinar series. I would like to start by reviewing the learning objectives. During this webinar, you will learn what aging well means, as well as factors that contribute to wellness outcomes in older age. Jane and I will describe purpose and its association with aging well. Finally, you will learn strategies to build purpose in yourself and your elders. Before I describe aging well, I think it's important to make sure that we're all on the same page about aging. Aging refers to changes that happen to our body as a result of time. Examples of aging include gray hair, wrinkles, or changes in reaction time. While these changes can be categorized as decline, research indicates these changes do not inevitably lead to chronic medical conditions. Chronic medical conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or dementia are not aging. These are health conditions that can be linked to specific causes such as obesity, smoking, or genetics. Aging and disease are separate but related processes. Age-related changes to our bodies are one of many risk factors for developing chronic medical conditions. However, a robust body of research is providing pathways to delay or even prevent the onset of chronic medical conditions and disability. What does it actually mean to age well? Aging well is about engaging in behaviors that reduce our risk of developing chronic conditions or disability, so that we can maintain psychological and physical function as we get older. An important component of aging well is the capacity to stay engaged in social activities and our community. I want to really drive home the role risk reduction plays in aging well. How we age can be viewed as a cumulative effect of a lifetime of habits and behaviors. A lifetime of healthy habits reduces our risk, whereas a lifetime of bad habits increases our risk. The reality is all of us engage in a mix of good and bad habits every day that help or hinder aging well. So what habits do we need to age well? The diagram on the screen shows the wellness wheel. Each petal represents a dimension of wellness. I will briefly describe each one. Emotional wellness refers to coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships. Environmental wellness involves occupying a pleasant, stimulating environment that supports well-being. Financial wellness is satisfaction with current and future financial situations. Intellectual wellness involves recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. Occupational or vocational wellness is personal satisfaction and enrichment from work or volunteerism. Physical wellness involves physical activity, healthy foods, and sleep. Social wellness refers to that sense of connection and belonging, as well as having a good support system. Spiritual wellness is how we expand our senses of purpose and meaning in life. As you can see, there are a variety of areas in our lives where we need to develop habits and behaviors to age well. For example, promoting intellectual wellness might involve taking a class to learn a new skill. I'm going to pause one moment. Matt, do you see Michelle's comment? So I was talking about intellectual wellness and how taking a class helps us learning a new skill. To enhance social wellness, we might eat a meal with friends and families. While the research provides guidance about healthy habits, many older adults experience challenges that make aging well difficult. Unfortunately, the current generation of older adults experience challenges at high rates. Firstly, 4 out of 5 older adults experience at least one chronic medical condition, such as diabetes or heart disease. Second, 1 in 10 older adults is living with Alzheimer's dementia. Finally, 1 in 3 older adults experience limitations in activities of daily living, such as bathing or preparing meals. Jane and I hope as more people implement strategies to age well as younger people, that future generations of older adults will experience disease and disability at lower rates. This is not to suggest that's too late for any older adult to experience benefits from healthy behaviors and habits. In fact, research says healthy behaviors improve health outcomes at every stage of life. A final thought I want to close with is that death and dying are part of the aging journey. At some point, catastrophic failure will occur in the body, and it may manifest as chronic medical conditions or limitations in activities of daily living. The goal of healthy behaviors and habits is to shorten the amount of time that we experience those challenges. So how can older adults facing challenges age well? I'd like you to take a moment and type in the chat box how you define purpose. What does purpose mean to you? So I'll give you about a minute. So having a reason to get up in the morning and keep living. Yeah. Meaningful engagement in life activities. A sense of usefulness. Being valued, connected, and growing. Having some goals that are reachable and being good to yourself and others. Being productive. Sense of belonging and doing something that has meaning and matters. I think you guys have a good sense of purpose. So aging well in the face of challenges can be achieved by experiencing purpose. And on the screen, I have one of the official research definitions of what purpose means. And it says that purpose can be thought of as a central, self-organizing life aim that organizes goals, manages behavior, and provides a sense of meaning. Purpose is said to direct goals and decisions by guiding the use of finite or limited resources and daily behavior. Purpose doesn't govern behavior. Instead, purpose offers us a direction, just as a compass offers a navigator direction. So, what are the sources of purpose? A key thing to remember about sources of purpose is that they have to be meaning and relevant to the individual. Two people could be employed doing similar work, and only one of them derives the experience of purpose from their work role. On the screen is a list of sources of purpose. The first is our relationships with other people. An example might be serving as a mentor to another person. Second is our societal work and familial roles. This could manifest as earning income to support your family or providing care to a family member who has disabilities. Third is the pursuit of personal goals. As an example, the book Jane and I used for the Purposeful Retirement Book Club includes a story about a grandmother who has a goal of strengthening the bond between her grandchildren. To accomplish her goal, she hosted cousins camp each year. Fourth is maintaining independence. As an example, this might be performing routine tasks such as preparing meals or folding laundry. This is particularly important for adults facing physical decline and disability. Fifth is community engagement, which could involve running for public office or building a community garden. The final item on my list is volunteerism, which is donating time to nonprofits and other organizations that have a mission that aligns with our individual purpose. So I'd like to think, I know this list is not inclusive, so I'd like each of you to take a moment and type some other sources of purpose in the chat box. I'll give you about a minute to write some other ideas about where we can get purpose. Cindy says my list seems very comprehensive and can't think of anything to add. Agree. The one I don't have on here that I thought somebody might. Yes, Jim, being able to respond to change proactively. Spiritual engagement, Deborah got it. That's the one I didn't have on the list that I thought somebody would write. Spiritual or religious engagement can be a source of purpose. Wonderful. So as you can see, there are many sources of purpose. So I'd like to move on now and talk about some of the outcomes that are associated with purpose. Research shows an association between purpose and a variety of outcomes. I have a list on the screen. So mortality refers to the probability that a person will die over the next year. Research indicates that level of a purpose is associated with risk of death, with people with lower purpose at higher risk of death in the following year. Longevity refers to the duration of a person's life. Research points to longer lives for those who feel a sense of purpose. Purpose affects psychological health in a variety of ways. Higher purpose is associated with optimism, self-efficacy, reduced depression severity, positive effect, more psychological resources, greater life satisfaction, and lower death anxiety. Whereas people with lower scores of purpose experience more psychological distress and loneliness. Dementia is a general term for a class of diseases that impair ability to remember, think, and make decisions. It is different from the normal age-related changes that might increase sensitivity to distractions or increase the amount of time it takes to learn a new skill. Research indicates that higher purpose is associated with less perceived memory decline and less reported cognitive decline. In fact, research indicates that higher purpose is associated with lower incidence of Alzheimer's disease and mild cognitive impairment. Sense of purpose is related to a range of better health and well-being outcomes. For example, higher self-reported purpose is associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular problems and stroke. It's important to note that research suggests that lack of health problems is not a predictor of purpose. Said another way, good health does not mean a person has purpose. Health promotion refers to the habits and behaviors that we do each day shown to improve health outcomes over time. Research indicates that people who report more purpose are more likely to engage in a variety of positive health behaviors that improve health outcomes. Examples of healthy behaviors include level of exercise, more vegetable consumption, flossing, quality of sleep, maintaining a healthy BMI, and having regular health checkups. There's an interesting conundrum in the research because some studies will find no association with behaviors like smoking and drinking. So I think it's important to understand that just because a person has higher purpose doesn't mean none of their behaviors are unhealthy. I hope it's clear to you that outcomes associated with purpose are impressive, but I would be remiss not to briefly describe an important research conundrum. On average, people with higher purpose engage in more healthy behaviors and habits and have better health outcomes. The pathway through which this association is not clear. We don't know which comes first, the higher purpose or the positive behaviors and outcomes. I anticipate research will continue to explore this question, but for now, we know that purpose is an important part of aging well. Do some people experience greater purpose than others? Quite a bit of research has looked at the characteristics of people with purpose. Some characteristics have more clear associations with purpose, while others vary by study. I will briefly summarize what the research indicates about these characteristics. Individuals who report higher sense of purpose tend to have higher income and net worth. In one study, purposeful individuals tended to increase their wealth over a 9-year period. Certain personality traits have also been associated with higher levels of purpose, including extroversion, openness to experience, and conscientiousness. Community-dwelling older adults report greater purpose than older adults in residential or similar type settings. Those who are married show greater level of purpose than adults who are widowed. In some studies, people with more years of education report higher level of purpose. Research shows an association between purpose and engagement in more cognitive activities in childhood, middle age, and later life. Higher purpose is associated with having a larger social network. People with more purpose tend to be more resilient than individuals with lower purpose. Some research shows a higher level of purpose among people of color. And finally, the association between purpose and gender is mixed, with some studies showing greater purpose in men and others finding greater purpose in women. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jane so she can answer the question, does purpose decline with increasing age?
Thanks, Leacey, for this great question. While purpose appears to decline over time, it is suggested that age itself is not the cause of this change. but rather a proxy of age-associated losses, things like widowhood, retirement, health decline, or loss of social roles. These losses make it more challenging to maintain a higher level of purpose. Research indicates that declining purpose in life varies greatly among older adults. It's important to not generalize older adults into a homogeneous group, remembering they are unique and have individualized experiences. So besides age-associated losses, what might be some other barriers to purposeful aging? This slide lists 3 specific barriers to aging with purpose. The first barrier is ageism. Ageism is a reason for widespread misconceptions about older people and their potential. For example, ageist stereotypes might include perceptions that all older people are forgetful, that they cannot learn new things like technology, and that they are unhealthy. These types of ageist stereotypes and beliefs can be harmful to older adults' well-being. A second barrier is age-graded life course. Let me explain. From a historical perspective, our society has established ideas and institutions based on age. These ideas include established age ranges for major life transitions, such as leaving your parents' home, attending college, starting businesses, getting married, having kids, and retiring from work. Challenging the conventional wisdom and established norms is needed in order to create new possibilities for older adults and to enhance their sense of purpose. The third barrier is social institutions and structures, which lag behind the added years of life that many older adults now experience. A couple of examples of social institutions and structures that have not adapted to the increased longevity and good health are Medicare and Social Security, both that have been tied to retirement in age 65. It is suggested that declining levels of purpose and growth associated with aging may be linked to diminished opportunities for meaningful life engagement and continued self-realization during the added years that many now enjoy. Traditional retirement is being reimagined as older adults reject age segregation, decline leisure to work, pursue learning, launch businesses, and contribute to their communities through volunteerism and civic engagement. So we have explored some of the major barriers. Now let's take a look at the strategies to boost aging with purpose. One first important step to help you age with purpose is to identify your governing values. Governing values are the things that matter most to you. I will use an I-beam example to explain. Envision an I-beam, such as the one depicted on the slide, that is 6 inches wide and 300 feet across, approximately the length of a football field. Now this beam is placed over the rim of the Grand Canyon, almost 1,200 feet above ground. What would make you walk across the I-beam? How would you answer this question? If you're willing, please type an answer or two into the chat box, and we'll just take half a minute or so for you to think about this. Kay says to save her children. Yeah. It requires some thought too. It's kind of a deep question to ask people. I'd have to gauge the results carefully before attempting. Think it through and then act, Jim says. For sure. Well, thank you for giving this a little bit of thought. You know, some ideas or, of maybe high priority values that people might name would be things like family, our faith, good health, being able to grow intellectually, love, honesty, loyalty, relationships, our community, our independence. Those are all things that, and many, many more. It's very individualized. So it's something to give a lot of thought about. What is really important to you? For what do you value in life? And once a person has a chance to really think about that and have those governing values identified, the next step is to write a clarifying statement for each value, describing what each value means to you. For example, if good health is a governing value, a clarifying statement might be, I will walk 5 days a week, or I will find and try one new healthy recipe a month. The last step is to place your governing values in order of importance. Your governing values should direct your time, your energy, and your resources. So now that we have discussed governing values, what's next in the process? It's critical to identify ways to plan and carry out your daily activities in a manner so that they make an impact or give you a sense of purpose. In order to plan your activities, ask yourself, what brings me joy? Or what do I feel passionate about? Everyone's purposeful life will look different. However, here are just a few examples of actions that may enhance feelings of purpose and get you thinking about your own plan for ensuring a purposeful life. If physical and mental wellness is a governing value, you could join a yoga class, practice meditation, or learn how to cross-country ski. Volunteerism can be done by providing rides to the clinic or grocery store to someone in need, serving meals at a homeless shelter, or playing music at a retirement center. Volunteer ideas and opportunities are endless. If lifelong learning is a value, consider forming a book club, learn a new language, study local history, or take cooking classes. If mentoring is a priority governing value, then mentor a young professional in your career, or perhaps mentor a child at a local school. If leaving a legacy is important, consider researching your own family history or sharing family stories and traditions with your grandchildren. Social relationships can involve deepening connections with family members, friends, and neighbors in meaningful ways. Your roles in the community. This might include assisting your neighbors, helping organize events, being part of a civic club, or serving in a leadership capacity. Personal goals and activities might include participating in those activities and pursuits that are individually meaningful and relevant. These are just a few examples of daily activities. There are many, many ways to ensure purpose in your life. Being open to new experiences and planning for new adventures is very important. Finding purpose as you age is intentional. It doesn't just happen. It requires work and action. So is it possible to enhance purpose in our elders? It is possible to help improve purpose for the older adults in our lives. And here are a few suggestions. Life review is a collaborative process where individuals can try to make sense of their life and develop newfound inner peace. Life review therapy is intended to empower older adults and those facing end-of-life issues to find hope, value, and meaning in their lives. Life review therapy can promote improve self-esteem. For example, people may not realize the significance of their accomplishments, from raising children to being the first person in their family to earn a college degree. Although the term life review therapy is often used interchangeably with the term reminiscence therapy, there are some differences. Reminiscence therapy often involves describing a memory itself. The process involves recalling memories throughout one's entire life and then sharing those stories with other people. Whereas life review therapy is based on discussing what a memory means to an older adult. Aging in place and age-friendly initiatives are vital because their goal is to promote older adults' health, well-being, and meaningful engagement. Initiatives might include things like age-friendly housing, community-level services and supports, and policies and practices that really promote engagement and inclusiveness. For older adults with dementia, engaging them in meaningful activities, such as making cards for a sick child or friend, can really promote a sense of purpose. Along these lines, spiritual reminiscence, a type of life story that works, that helps older adults with dementia reconnect to what is meaningful and purposeful in their past, present, and future lives. And it's a useful activity to promote purpose. For residents living in care settings, day-to-day experiences and interactions can be tailored to the interests and qualities of each individual resident. We know that COVID-19, the pandemic, has been particularly challenging for older adults, especially those who have been socially isolated from their family, their friends, and their community members. Just wondering right now if what you have done to help your older family members maintain their sense of well-being or their feelings of purpose during the pandemic. If you would be willing to share if you have had that experience with an older adult in your life. Oh, excellent. Give me some ideas from my elderly parents. That's great. Anyone find anything effective and kind of being able to reach out to their older adult family members? Encouraged to maintain and keep up their interest of sewing quilts to donate to charities. Great. Regular check-ins, helping with appointments and finding vaccine info. I drop a note in the mail, snail mail, to an aunt in assisted living. Oh, great ideas. Wonderful. Staying connected, those social connections. Zoom sessions with wine with friends, games through Zoom. Great. Volunteering at homeless shelters, for sure. Another great idea. Well, thank you so much for sharing those things. Sounds like you're doing great things. Yeah, Brenda, regular phone calls to elder neighbors. That's great, and so much more important than we'll ever know, for sure. Well, thank you for sharing. I've covered information on the barriers that we could face in really having purpose as we age. And I've tried to talk about some of those specific steps that we can take to increase purpose in our lives and in the lives of older adults, in other older adults. So this really is bringing us to the end of our presentation. So I'd just like to summarize. You know, Leacey and I have provided a definition for aging well that encompasses the promotion of health and the prevention of disease and disability, along with high physical and psychological functioning and social engagement. The wellness wheel was presented that highlights the many, many dimensions that contribute to overall wellness. And then research has been shared indicating how feelings of purpose have been associated with numerous health and wellness outcomes. And then last but not least, strategies or actions were suggested that people of any age or health status can use to enhance purpose in their life. So with that, I would just entertain any questions or comments that you might have.
You know, and we are a small group, so if you'd like to unmute yourself to ask your question, please feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video back on. And I'll leave the slides up, although you all have the slide deck, so we can stop that share because you all have the slide deck, so you have our contact information.
Could you show that slide from the beginning with all the different, sort of the wheel?
Yes, yeah, I will. Let me get that back. Oops, did I? From beginning. Bear with me while I can make it do what it needs to do. You're seeing the slides now, correct?
Yes.
Hang on, I did. Come on, wellness. Sorry, my computer is, there it is. There you go. Jim?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see, I'm doing lots of that stuff, but I can also see where I can make some better efforts on some of those things. And
Jim, would you be willing to share an effort you think would help your wellness?
yeah, I can give you a recent one. I volunteer for a local environmental group. We're trying to get recognized by the national office. I'll share it. It's a Sierra Club. COVID slammed us down. We're trying to get restarted, and I volunteered to be the lead. We have to have a board of an executive committee and a membership board, and the national office is putting us through the hoops that way. We have to do a mail-in election. We have to have nominees, and we're just a small group. Well, I'm a caregiver, and the last 2 days have been really difficult, and I can't get to that volunteer effort. So I had to make a call this morning to my contact. I said, hey, I'm out. I can't do it at this time. I regret that. I support what we're trying to do here, but I just can't function right now on that. The family's taking the precedence. So I guess that's something on the environmental, the physical, the mental, emotional, all of the above, sort of. And I feel such a relief after making that phone call and got a lot of good support from that individual. So making me feel better.
Thank you so much, because I think that's an important thing we have to remember as we're trying to achieve wellness as we get older, that, you know, that volunteerism, yeah, that's a source of wellness for us. But if it increases our stress in unhealthy ways, then it may no longer be healthful. So thank you for sharing that, Jim. And there's a chat.
Leacey, there are some comments here about, is there any interesting research happening in this space that anyone wants to plug or talk about? So it sounds like if anybody that is part of this webinar is aware or engaged in any research along this line, if that's how I'm understanding the question or comment, Megan. I don't know that I would have anything else to add. Leacey, I think we sent a reference list of all of the research that has been cited in this particular webinar that might be interesting, Megan, for you to have. Carol says, can you speak to the issue of ageism and its effect on purposeful aging?
Definitely. So ageism, in summary, is just assumptions that we make about people based on their age. And there's different forms of ageism. There's the ageism that we experience as we exist out in society. You know, so the way people treat us, they may treat us like we're incompetent because we're older and we're trying to use technology. So that's that one type of ageism. Another type of ageism refers to how we talk to ourselves about us getting older. You know, so if we have a more negative outlook, like, oh, I'm getting older, I can't do this because I'm old. You know, if we have those conversations, so that it's really the assumptions we make about our abilities because our age, and then the assumptions that others make about us based on that, and how that affects purposeful aging. So Jane mentioned the age-friendly communities. So current communities don't really have as many opportunities for older adults to participate. Like, for example, the retirement age is 65. So there's this kind of assumption that, oh, you're 65, you've kind of reached the end of the line. It's time to, you know, sign off the work world. So that's a way it plays into it. So it's that assumption that, oh, you're 65, it's time to retire. But then it's also that conversations we have with ourselves. So intellectual wellness is a domain in the wellness wheel. So if we tell ourselves that we're too old to learn, then why should we even bother to try? You know, so that's where ageism really plays an important role. And a lot of it is, if there's some social components, but then a lot of it is how we talk to ourselves about our own aging. Any other questions? Or Jane, do you want to add anything? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I would just add one thing that, you know, with the area of ageism, you know, we've talked about that it's more important to think about our biological age. How do we feel, you know, physically, mentally, socially, all of that, versus our chronological age, because sometimes that is what trips us up. It's a number, but it doesn't mean really much beyond that. And so I think that's important that we think about that individually.
And I probably would be remiss to not mention that younger people experience ageism too. You know, we see the talks about how soft the millennial generation is. That's a broad statement made about a whole group of people. That too is a form of ageism. It's different from the ageism we experience as older adults, because we grow into the stereotypes that people associate with aging: frail, dementia, senile, sick, that you don't have sex. I mean, there's people grow into those stereotypes, and you grow out of the stereotypes associated with being younger. And if anybody wants to unmute to ask a question, that's okay. We don't have a big group here. So I've got a question. I'm going to put the chat information back up, or excuse me, the contact information. I'm going to put that back on the screen for you. We did email the contact information to everybody who was registered to attend this event. I know we had a couple folks join after the fact. Robin asks if a lot of our perception about aging are driven by advertising. Absolutely, Robin. that is one component of how we learn about aging. We learn about it from the advertisements we see. We learn about it from the media, the television, the movies we watch. A lot of those movies will portray older adults in stereotyped roles. An example I can think of was a Tide commercial, and it was joking about a grandfather not being able to find his pants. So those definitely do. But we also learn about ageism from our families. So how our families treat older adults, talk about aging, that influences our perceptions of age and whether or not we develop those more negative stereotypes associated with aging. And it's also important to mention some of the aging stereotypes are positive. So for example, wisdom. While we hope that we become wiser as we get older, it's a stereotype to assume that all people who are older have wisdom. Robin, does that help? Wonderful. Jane and mine's contact information, hopefully if I did the screen share right, is on the screen. You are welcome to reach out to us if you have additional questions. I'm going to self-promote some work that Jane and I do. This fall, Jane and I will be hosting a Purposeful Retirement Book Club. Information about that event will come out this summer. And it is a 6-session event where we read a book called Purposeful Retirement. Now I don't remember the full title, but that's okay. And that I-beam question that Jane actually presented about that's part of that book. And we'll expand our discussion kind of on that I-beam concept and how do we identify our own purpose and governing values. So that will be coming. Keep an eye out for that registration this summer. Ida Marie, you're one of the most purposeful people I know. It's Purposeful Retirement. Yep. And Ida Marie, you probably really like that. Our little book club. We're going to put together a facilitation guide so others can do it. Jane and I are exceptionally grateful for your time today. As we shared earlier, this recording will be emailed to everybody who registered. There is also an evaluation. Please give us feedback. Please give us suggestions for other webinar topics, because Jane and I, we host an annual winter webinar series, and we pick our topics based on the feedback of the people who participate in them. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to all the thank yous in the box.
Yep. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.